why, but one day I said to Mike, you hear God is moving in Africa, you've got to go to Africa.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from either, but I was like, okay, cool. I'll do it. And so I go look up online, and actually Todd Bentley is going to Africa on a trip, and I contacted them. They're like, oh, I'm sorry, the trip is closed. And I'm like, well, I want to go. So they said, okay, we'll let you go. And we went to Rwanda, and man, it was just amazing. Saw some incredible signs and wonders. We did healing crusade and tens of thousands of people, but the kids is what got me. And I saw these kids, and I saw these orphans, and I saw these children digging through trash and just trying to survive, and probably being taken advantage of, and it broke my heart. And I came back and I told Lori, I said, you've got to go see this. You've got to go to Africa and see this. And Lori,
well, you shared with me that the Lord said, if this was your two girls and something had happened to you,
oh my goodness,
would somebody step in and help them? And he was like, you've got to go, Lori. You've got to see. We've got to do something. And being that bold woman of faith that you said I am, Steve, I said, no, I'm not going to Africa. I'm not leaving my babies. I don't want to do that. But somehow God convinced me, and we did go. We went in December of 2003. And it was the most incredible. We actually went to Uganda, and it was the most incredible trip. Again, we saw signs and wonders and miracles. And I remember praying for this deaf boy and his ears opening.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm standing behind him and I'm whispering, Jesus. And Mike's in front of him, and he says to Mike, Jesus. We saw God do incredible things, but again, it was the kids that moved our hearts. But we weren't thinking we were going to do anything. Honestly, because we had made quite a bit of money, we had saved a lot, we were thinking God's going to use us to fund ministry. So actually, I kind of went with like a pen and a paper, like kind of trying to figure out, what does it cost to do something? Because I think that's what we thought our role would be. So we came back from that trip, and when you go on a missions trip, people want to hear about your time. So we went to lunch with a couple, and I think we're telling them about our time, the miracles we saw and what God did. And there was a couple sitting next to us at a Mexican restaurant. It's across the street from the pavilion, actually.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, we heard you talking about Uganda, and our family just did this huge garage sale, 6 families, and we raised like $6,000. Can you do something with that in Uganda?
My goodness.
And we were like, I don't know. We're not doing anything.
We don't have a nonprofit. We don't, we don't know.
I think we got their name and their number. Yeah. Then later that week, we went to home group, and one of the guys came up to us. And again, he said, hey, I ran across one of my friends, and he's been putting money away. He has $10,000 for orphans. Can y'all do something with that?
My goodness.
So this money came at us, and I think you ended up going to the church.
So we had $16,000 and no idea why, but God's obviously in this. And so I go to the church, and I speak to them. I said, hey, we'll be happy to lead an organization of missions. There wasn't a missions department, work with orphans. And the elders got together and prayed, and they came back and they said, we prayed about it, and we feel like this is something you're supposed to do. We'll support you, but we don't feel like it's something the church was supposed to do. So I went out and I bought a book called How to Form a Nonprofit Corporation. And I read it from the beginning to the end, and we started Show Mercy International at that point.
Was that 2003 still, or 2000?
Officially 2004. I think June 2004 was the official.
Yeah, and somewhere in there, you worked with us for a little while, helping us with the marketing thing. I don't remember how long you worked for us. Do you?
I think that was 2007 or 2008.
Was that where that was further along? Okay.
But I wanted to share it because that we tell this story, and it sounds so. It's such a God story, and it sounds so good looking back. But there were times in the moment that it was really, really hard. And there was a time when I began to doubt what we had done, because we didn't know. I started to just question, did I really do this for the right reasons, or was I just burnt out on work? And so I was frustrated. And I started, the enemy started putting thoughts in my head like, oh, look at what you've done. You've ruined your kid's life. You're not going to be able to pay for their college now. You're not going to be able to take care of them. You just were tired of the corporate rat race and all of this stuff. And so I started getting depressed. And I remember sitting on the back porch, patio of our rental house, and I had my laptop, and I began just journaling what I felt to the Lord. And I think, Lord, Steve, I heard, you talk about how you've told God before, like, what have you, what are you doing? And
yeah, you're not doing your job as the big
right.
one. You're not
Exactly.
doing your job. Can you imagine telling Almighty?
I know.
And I was pointing at him too. I mean, anyway.
Well, that's kind of what I was doing. And,
Yeah.
I wrote this whole thing. I said, what have you done? I've done everything you've asked me to do. You've tricked me. I don't have money. And at this time I had also made a bad investment at our church and I'd lost $100,000 and thinking it was a ministry investment. And so I'm like,
did you lose your personal money or was it the church's
personal money? Personal money.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so a lot of our savings was gone. And so I felt like a complete loser. And even though we had show mercy, it was just the beginning. And I was sitting there and I was typing and I was like, God, this is terrible. You've done all this stuff that I did for you. And I'm not going to be able to take care of my kids. I'm broke. We're never broke, but just like, we just felt like I'd made a mistake. And, Abraham could have sacrificed his son Isaac at the word of the Lord because the Lord spoke to him and said, sacrifice your son Isaac. And so at this time, but if he didn't hear that follow-up word to stop, he would have killed his son at the word of the Lord. And that's what I was thinking. I was like, I know God told us to come here, but I think maybe I missed something along the way. Maybe I missed a turn. Maybe I missed his voice because, it was so clear the first time. And so I'm sitting there and typing. I said, Lord, I need somebody that doesn't know me to tell me that I am in the right place and that I did it for the right reason. So the next week, there's a conference at our church. And I don't think it was an Elijah list. It might have been.
We've done it both ways with Bobby Connor, right?
Yeah.
And we've done Elijah list ones with him, and then some were with Denny. So either way, it's they always kind of blended together. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I don't remember, but I remember that Bobby Connor was there, and it was a Saturday evening, and it was packed. It was probably 600 or so people. You remember how it used to get packed in there, and so he's preaching his message. And he's just going on preaching, how Bobby is, the big guy. He's just going. He wasn't even prophesying. He was just preaching. All of a sudden, he stops preaching and he walks down the aisle and he points at me. And he goes, hey, there you are. You're the guy that likes to journal. And that's it. He stopped and he went and walked back up on the stage and continued his message. So I'm like, I knew enough about Bobby to know that when Bobby speaks, you need to listen. So I leaned to Lori and I said, Lori, I told you we were supposed to be documenting all the things God's doing. We're supposed to be journaling. And
you're right. I'm terrible. We need to do that. We're going to get better at that.
So that was it. But I'm sitting there thinking, like, what was that about? He just stopped and said, you're the guy that likes to journal. And then just went right back to his message. And so the next morning, it was Sunday morning, and he was the preacher. And we decided this time we were going to sit in another part of the auditorium because everybody knows people sit in the front row always get the prophetic words, right, at the conferences. So everybody wants to get up front.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were like, nah, we're going to sit in the back. At this point, we were kind of trying to hide. So we sat in a different part of the auditorium. Bobby's preaching his message once again. Have no idea what he was talking about, but he's preaching and he stops again. And he walks down the aisle and he points at me. He goes, there you are. You're the guy that likes to journal.
Oh, my goodness.
And so then I'm like, yeah, that's me. And he goes, let me tell you something. You're in the right place for the right reason. You're in the right place for the right reason. You're in the right place for the right reason. That ought to help you. And then he gets up and walks back to the stage and finishes. And I broke down because I was asking the Lord, why are we in the right place for the right reason? That reason we've been pondering for a long time. And this is where I think we need to jump in over here. What that reason we believe at this point was connecting with you and with ElijahStreams.